To you, Sanam. Now, these two men sitting down, but there are stumbling blocks Erdogan and Putin need to overcome.
Interestingly, Delano, the relationship between these two countries is of great concern to the West because you have Turkey, a NATO member in partnership with both Iran and Russia in Syria. But of course, as you just mentioned, it's not all rosy. On the one side, you have Ankara, which is calling for a ceasefire in the province of Idlib, citing the potential humanitarian disaster, even echoing at times the words of the United Nations. But of course, we know that the reason he's doing this is because he doesn't want an exodus of refugees landing on the doorsteps of Turkey. Now, on the other side, you have, of course, Tehran and Moscow, and they are very committed to this military action, to retaking Idlib, to propping up the regime of Bashar al-Assad. So you have those immense differences, and also looking at the relationship between both Erdogan and Putin. They met last time in Tehran with their Iranian counterpart, Hassan Rouhani, and you had Erdogan making some mistakes, making gaffes, and Putin actually ridiculing him. Now, all of these differences aside, we see that this is the third time in 3 weeks that these two leaders are coming together, and frankly, we need to really focus on what they need to achieve here. One of them is that the fact that they need to agree on separating the terrorists, which is what Iran and Russia want to fight, from the rebels, which is what essentially Ankara is trying to support. And they need to conduct what they're referring to as ground anti-terror operations. Delano, lastly, it's not all about Idlib. We're hearing from observers that the Russians are saying they do want to maintain their business, economic ties with the Turks. So that's why there's so much work going into this.
Now, Sanam, every battle that we've had in Syria over these 7 years, we've always been saying, could this be the final battle? But could this be the final battle, this battle for Idlib?
It's a good question, Delano, because, of course, when the Syrian army took back the rebel enclave of eastern Aleppo 2 years ago in 2016, we saw the rebels and civilians even flood into Idlib. Later, we saw an attack by the Syrian government on eastern Ghouta. The same thing happening. The rebels and the opposition groups were bussed into Idlib. But of course, now it's Idlib itself that's being attacked. So there's nowhere else for these guys to flee to. Now, what the battle will do, certainly, is eradicate the stronghold of the opposition, the rebel groups. But will it actually end the conflict? It doesn't look that way. That doesn't mean that it won't be a victory for Bashar al-Assad, who's certainly trying to retake most of the territory that was taken from him during this ongoing conflict. But it comes, of course, at a great loss. We're talking about the potential use of chemical weapons, and as we've heard time and time again, it could be one of the worst humanitarian disasters of our time. We could see the displacement of hundreds of thousands of civilians, so the costs are extremely high here.
Sanam, thank you very much for that update.